All right, I would like to thank everyone for coming. This is our first sixth grade grade level meeting. And what we're going to do is just talk about a lot of policies and procedures that we have in place. And basically, these policies and procedures are put in place for the safety of the school, the safety of the students, and also the safety of the teachers. So we're just going to go over them quickly. And at the end, if you have any questions or concerns, I'll open up the floor at that time. So the first thing we're going to go over are our Meadowbrook non-negotiables. We have about 4 non-negotiables here at Meadowbrook, and basically with those non-negotiables, we're asking that the 10-10 rule, what happens is once the bell rings and students get into the classroom, we're asking that you make sure that they stay into the classroom the first 10 minutes and then the latter 10 minutes of class. That means that there's no movement at that time. They're not asking to go to the restroom, okay, or asking to leave the classroom to get water. Those are very important instructional minutes, and students need to remain in the classroom at all times. We also have the dress code. You already know about OCPS dress code. What I'm asking you is to make sure first period, because what happens is 4th period, 5th period, 6th period, they come to the office, they're out of dress code. I'm not sending the child home at that time. So what I'm asking you to do is, in the morning when you greet your students, look at them, you make sure that they're dressed presentable. You greet them, good morning, they're coming to the classroom. If they are out of dress code, you know the dress code, ripped jeans, headbands, hats, hoodies, you're asking them to remove those things. And then if they have the ripped jeans, you just send them to the grade level office. If they're not leaving the classroom, then you will call the grade level office, and Miss McKenzie will send security to come and pick them up, and then they'll come to the room. We also have cell phones, and this is a big thing with cell phones, making sure that cell phones are concealed and turned off at all times. If a student has their cell phone out, it can be confiscated. We're just going to ask for it. If they give you a hard time about giving you their cell phone, you call the grade level office. Okay, we're not wrestling with them, we're not arguing with them, it's just real simple, okay, and they'll get whatever consequence once they come to the office. The last thing is class attendance. Just making sure that you're talking to the kids, letting them know they need to come to class, they need to be prepared, they need to come with their books, their pencils, and whatever materials that is needed for class time, all right? So just make sure that you're following our non-negotiables, and it's consistent across the board. So that means first period should be doing it, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. Everyone across the board. So we just make sure that we're doing that. The other thing we have in place for behavior as well, classroom management, we have our CHAMPS, okay? Conversation, help, activity, movement, participation, and success. That's the meaning for CHAMPS. So basically what happens for CHAMPS is it's an intervention that we have in place to help curtail behavior. So basically if a student, so they know how to behave when they're going to the cafeteria, their procedures for the cafeteria. They know how to transition in the hallway. They know the dismissal procedure as well. Because remember, dismissal procedure is you do not allow all students to be dismissed at the same time. We call on the intercom, bus students first, car riders, and walkers, and therefore you do not release those students until they have been called, and that's for safety. Transition in the hallway, just making sure that teachers, you are out supervising. We need to make sure that students are getting to class on time. So if you see them lingering in the hallway, I need you to push them along into the classroom. You're standing at your doors, you're monitoring the students, you're supervising. You are not on your cell phone. As a matter of fact, your cell phone should be put away as well. So you're not on your cell phone, and you're actively monitoring and supervising those students. All right, another thing we have in place, and I'm just going to briefly touch on Safe Harbor and harassment and bullying. Safe Harbor is basically put in place for students who sometimes forget that they bring things to school that they shouldn't. That could be, just being honest, because we know here at Meadowbrook that's what we have, students that might bring marijuana, lighters, anything, the brass knuckles. I've had students bring brass knuckles to school, and of course we know all of these are level 4 offenses. So Safe Harbor allows them the opportunity, if they know they have this on them, to report this item to anyone on the campus, custodial staff, teachers, dean, does not matter. If they come to you and say, I have something on me, and they give it to you, that's Safe Harbor. Basically what happens then, we just bring them into the office, we take whatever material it is, we call the parents and say, look, your child brought this in, we need you to come and pick it up. Okay? What happens is, if they don't report it and you see something, then when they come to the grade level office, I'll ask them if they have something on them. Is there something you'd like to give me? Is there something that you know that you shouldn't have? If that's the case, then we might, depending on what it is, allow them the leeway. If not, then that is a level 4 offense. So we go ahead and start that process. Harassment and bullying. We know OCPS has no tolerance for harassment and bullying. If a student comes to you and report this to you, please make sure that you take it very serious. You do not ignore it. You do not brush them off. You do not say, okay, I'll handle it, and not address it. So please make sure that you are talking. When they come to you and they say that we have this issue, please make sure you address it. Please make sure that you also let them know they need to report it to the grade level office. They need to report it to the dean. Because if you address it and something else happens and I'm not aware of it, then I can't take actions on what I need to do. Okay? So we need to make sure that everyone is making sure that they're following up and making sure that our students are safe. That's when we want them to be safe, feel safe when they come to school. So that's harassment and bullying. Then we move to our level offenses. We know that referrals come level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4 offenses. Level 1 offenses are those classroom management issues. So I call that classroom management 101. That becomes your responsibility. You give the consequence for that behavior. Only if it's repeated do you write the referral. If it's repeated, then that's a level 2 referral, and then we'll start the process in the dean's office. But you need to make sure that you have your interventions set in place in your classroom, because when a student comes to me with a referral, I'm going to ask you what interventions have you put in place. Okay? So please, ma'am, please, sir, just make sure that you have interventions put in place and that you have given some consequences before we receive those referrals. Detentions, if you are given a detention, a teacher is given a detention, then you're serving that child is going to serve that detention with you, not with the dean, not with the APs. That's your responsibility. So you need to make sure, if you're giving out a notice for detention, you need to make sure that you are calling the parents, giving them a 24-hour notice, some type of notice, especially if they're a bus rider or a car rider. You definitely need to let them know that. Detentions, clinics, any students that need to go to the clinic, just make sure they have a pass. Students need a pass when they're leaving the classroom period. All students need a pass. Do not allow students to roam the hallway. Once they get to the clinic, then the nurse will take care of whatever needs they have at that time. Office protocol, that's the grade level office. Anytime you have students who need to go to the dean's office, you need to make sure that you call Ms. McKenzie and let them know I have this child coming. If it's for disruptive behavior and the child doesn't want to come, you call Ms. McKenzie. She'll send security or myself. We'll come to the classroom and we'll pick that child up, and then we'll take them to the grade level office. Most important thing is that you not get into a battle with the student, arguing back and forth with them. Make sure that you're calling the grade level office. Once again, do not send students out in the hallway. Students are not supervised at that time. That's a safety issue. So please do not put students out in the hallway. If you need a child removed, once again, remember, please, ma'am, please, sir, make sure you call the grade level office. Parent conferences are set up from the grade level office. So Ms. McKenzie set those up. All our grade level conferences are set up with Ms. McKenzie. If you have a concern, then you need to get with Ms. McKenzie and she'll set it up. Remember, all 7 teachers must be at the conference whenever we have them. All right? So at this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the floor up. If anyone have any questions or any concerns, I'm going to open the floor up at this time. So if you have any questions for me, please, ma'am, please, sir. I'll answer them now. Yes, sir.
We can deal with the referrals a little bit. So if I have a student that I've dealt with for behavior purposes, I've given consequences in the classroom, and I'm finding that they're repeatedly going on and off referrals. Is there a progression process in place so I can understand what to do to deal with this student that continues to behave even after I've dealt with behaviors in the classroom?
Yes. Once we have a progression put in place for our students, once I have spoken with you and you let me know what interventions you put in place, Then what we do is we move to the next step. Let's say if that student has come to me and have received several referrals already, we start them off with a behavior contract. With that behavior contract, what happens is once they start to violate that behavior contract, we have a behavior contract, but we also call the parents in and let them know we're going to place your child on the behavior contract because the behaviors are repeated. And because their behaviors are repeated, they're being disruptive in the classroom, then it's an issue for the rest of the students in class. So basically what we do is we have a conference, we place that child on a behavior contract. Once that student gets to the point where it becomes level 4 and repeated, then we look at possible expulsion from school. Yes.
What's the purpose of the 10-10 rule?
Purpose of the 10-10 rule is basically is a, I want to say one is safety for one, because a lot of time we have students that like to skip. So what happens is we're able to roam, we have security, we have 4 security officers, we have 3 deans, and we have an SRO. We're able to walk the hallways and make sure that all students are in class at that time. No one is just roaming the campus without supervision, and that they have permission to be out the classroom. Another reason is for instruction. Most important instruction is given at the beginning of the class and at the end of the class, because they have bell work once they get to class, and then right before they leave, they are most likely receiving their homework assignment or whatever it is that the teacher has already gone over in class. Okay. Yes.
So as a new teacher, coming from elementary school now to middle school, I know what interventions work on the younger ones. What kinds of interventions work at the middle school level?
Okay. We always want to start out with parent contact, because parents need to be informed that their child is basically being disruptive in the classroom. So we do have our parent contact. We also have partners or buddies, where if a child is disruptive and you don't want to wear your buddy out, what happens if the child is disruptive? You send that child to the other classroom, so it's almost like a timeout. It gives you and that child some time apart. You just send them there, and then you're sending them to the same grade level, and you're sending them to a same subject class, so that way they're not missing out on instruction time. So you're doing that, and I forgot what the question was.
Oh, it was just about interventions.
Okay, yeah. So we have that intervention with the buddy, and then we also have it where if it's just an issue with you and that student, then we look at possible schedule change. So we do have a couple of things in place that we can assist you with if that is an issue. Yes.
With safe harboring.
Yes.
So when they're allowed to turn whatever they have on them in, there's no repercussions for that at all. I just want to make sure I understand that.
Right, as long as it's initiated by that student. Now, if they have gone through the day without, and you find it on that student or find out that a student has that on them, then of course that safe harbor is not granted to them anymore.
So it has to be at the beginning of the day.
Not the beginning of the day, it has to be before we catch them.
Okay. As
Yes.
long as they initiate.
As long as
the
they
process.
initiate, yes.
Okay.
Yes, if it's initiated by someone else, I was walking down the hall and I saw Johnny pull out a BB gun, okay, then we have to start a search at that time and go pick that student up, bring him to the office. All right, any more questions or concerns?
One question.
Yes, sir.
In regards to tardiness and absenteeism,
Yes, sir.
are there set rules in place for the teachers, for our guidelines?
Yes, sir.
And when is the cutoff point? Do we notify a counselor or whatever?
Yes, sir. So what happens with our tardies? First period, all students, if you're late to class, you must report, that student must report to the front office. No teacher gives a student a tardy for a first period, because that's recorded by the attendance clerk. But for 2nd through 7th, what happens is we have a warning bell that rings. They have 60 seconds to get in class once that warning bell rings. And we tell teachers, once that late bell rings, your door is closing. Now, the thing is, the door is closing, because I have this issue all the time. If a child grabs that doorknob and comes into the classroom, let the child in the classroom. Do not, tug on the door and just say, no, you late, let the child in the classroom. If that door once that door closes, that child is late. Teachers report tardies and absences in progress book. So you're responsible for, marking them absent and marking them tardy, second through seventh period. Now, absences, you still have to mark them absent for first period as well, but you're responsible for marking them tardy. What happens is, once second through seventh period, they come to the grade level clerk. We have a system called Hero, and when they come in there, it tells us how many times they've been late. They receive a consequence based on the tracking system that we have in the sixth grade office. So we then issue out the consequences for students who are tardy and not getting to class on time. As far as absences, the attendance clerk will send those out. You know, once a child receives so many absences, then we do truancy, and then we start legal paperwork. So that's done at the front office, so you all don't have to worry about that. So the most important thing is making sure that you're marking students absent and tardy in progress school.
Is there a set number of absenteeism that a student can have? 3 versus 5 versus 6?
For the tardies, and I'm gonna address that first, the tardies, they get 3 tardies a semester. Once they get that 3rd tardy, after that, they start receiving consequences. For absences, probably if a child is missing about 7 days, then we start looking at it, especially if it's 7 consecutive days, then we have an issue, okay? But I think it's really like it's 15, 9 weeks. All right, that's it. All right.